The November meeting of the Park Board to order, please. Folks, we want to get out of here. We've got a Planning Commission meeting here at 6, so we'd like to get through our agenda if we can. Calling the meeting to order. First item of business are the minutes from our last meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, or omissions that anybody caught that they need to change? If not, all those who approve, say aye.
Got to get a motion.
Move
me-
to approve.
Yeah, okay, so moved.
Let's do it.
I didn't hear one.
That's okay.
Now, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. We got it. We're going to move item A on our new business down to the end. We're still waiting for a presenter to come on that. So we'll start out with the request by the sailing school for their lease on the Buckeye Garage.
So the St. Croix Sailing School, which currently uses space on the south end of Picnic Point, which is Lakefront Park. They use it for operations during the summertime for their school. They're looking to lease 2 bays out of the Buckeye Garage. Now that Public Works operations have moved out of that building, we have a semi-vacant building. We're still house a piece of winter equipment in there and do some picnic table rehabs throughout the winter months if it gets slow. But they came to us, or they approached staff and Pat about possibly entering into a lease to basically, like I said, lease out 2 bays to store some of their boats that are down there so they don't have to take them off site, so on and so forth. They can just keep them right down there. I did talk to Aaron about it. Aaron Reeves, the new city administrator, he's fine with it. And the way that we have set up the lease, it's similar to the ones that we currently have with the Hudson Boosters and the Hudson Rowing Club on the north end of Lakefront Park. Same structure, same price point, so on and so forth. So staff is recommending that we enter into a lease agreement with St. Croix Sailing School for that lease.
There was a copy of that in the packet that came, so has anybody got any comments or anything, or wish to make a motion to proceed?
I would make a motion to approve the agreement with the St. Croix Sailing School for the use of the Buckeye Garage.
One second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anybody have any questions regarding it? There's people from the sailing club here if you do. If not, the chair will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Oh, and Karen, I apologize. I was very rude. I should introduce you. Karen, I know I'm going to destroy your, Sankovic is your our maiden name is on our new appointee to the park board. So it's great to have you on the park board, and thank you very much for volunteering. It'll be nice.
This is your first official meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, thank you very much. Next item we have is the pickleball people. And I think we have some folks from there.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of briefly explain why we're here and where we've been. Many of you have sat on the park board long enough, but I'll bring some of you up to speed. Pickleball Association is a growing organization within the city, and they've been in talks with city staff over the last 4 years about trying to find a more permanent home within the city to construct some permanent pickleball courts. They did include some numbers in the packet. I mean, each year they're getting more and more participants, and they're just looking for a space that they can call their own and have tournaments and continue to grow their organization, because it is kind of a rapidly growing recreational opportunity for young people all the way, until end of life. So, I mean, they have approached the city. We did talk about possibly putting some courts in the St. Croix Meadows development. However, some of the land constraints there, and it's looking like more of a 3-year process before we get that designated usable parkland space. That's what's in the DA. They don't want to wait that long, which I don't blame them, because they've already waited for 3 years up to this point to try and find a spot. So they approached myself. They did reach out to some community members to support them, and they're looking at the possibility of putting permanent courts in Anderson Park, currently where they play. It is a green space just to the east of the current tennis courts, and they are here to present a couple of configurations and get feedback from the park board and approval of using that space and dedicating it to them. And what I put in the packet, what I put in the memo is, if the park board chooses to approve that space, what I would recommend is incorporating it with our outdoor rec plan for the next 5 years, dedicating that land with for them to develop it. If after that 5 years is up and they haven't developed it, we can always, say, okay, it's a sunset clause type of thing. They had the opportunity to do that, and we can revisit it after 5 years, but include it in the outdoor rec plan. So, Deanne, I'll turn it over to Deanne.
Thank you. I'm Deanne DeGraff, and I live at 713 Glenna Drive, Hudson. And Michael kind of made my whole presentation. But I'll add a few details. First of all, I am the chair of the Hudson Community Pickleball Association, and I want to thank you for allowing us to come here and present to you. I also want to thank Michael Mraz, because it's with his help and his assistance that we're here tonight. He's a very good person to work with. We really appreciate him.
Thank you, by the way, for acknowledging that
Yeah,
on the camera and everything else.
very
I don't
receptive.
think you guys get enough
Yeah.
praise for doing a good job. No good deed goes unpunished, but
Thank you.
We're excited to be here, and we believe that we have a workable proposal in our lengthy quest for permanent pickleball courts in Hudson. And that's thanks mainly not only to Michael, but also to Paul Anderson. The Hudson Community Pickleball Association mission is to actively promote pickleball within the community of Hudson. We believe pickleball enriches the physical, social, and mental health of players. The Hudson Community Pickleball Association is committed to obtaining resources and support to create opportunity for anyone interested in playing this unique sport. So our purpose for being here this evening is to ask the park board to approve using space at Anderson Park to build 6 dedicated pickleball courts with permanent nets and to begin building next spring. None of us are getting any younger. In review of the park board master plan, I noted in there that there is one goal in particular, goal 2 is development, and there were 3 objectives under that goal that I felt adding pickleball courts helps support. 2A is to provide recreation for all ages. Well, a large portion of our players right now are 55 plus. There are not a lot of recreational opportunities for that group in the town. Pickleball fits for that group. The other age group we're looking at are the younger kids that are learning this in school. And we've been in conversation with the YMCA, and we plan to do some coordinated efforts for intergenerational activities with that group. So, and believe it or not, it's catching on across all ages. So definitely provides recreation for all. 2B was to provide recreation for visitors to town. Well, pickleball players are kind of unique. They get very addicted to the sport. And when you're traveling, you want to play pickleball. So these courts would have permanent nets, and travelers could come to town and play pickleball. And 2G is the inclusion of persons with disabilities. And this is something that we've been talking about from day one as we formed our organization. We want to incorporate that somehow into our activities and our planning. Also, I noted in the master plan that the addition of pickleball courts were included under the action plan for capital improvement at Anderson Park. So it is there. This idea that we're bringing to you was initiated by Paul Anderson, who donated the Anderson Park land, and he's funded several structures at that park. When we heard about Paul's interest to add permanent pickleball courts, I was thrilled, and we went to Paul, and we joined forces, and that's why we're here. That's really why we're here. So our proposal is that the Hudson Community Pickleball Association would request to use the, as Michael Mraz said, use the open space east of the tennis courts to add the 6 permanent pickleball courts. The materials in your packet are there to give you some visuals. The first page in there, after Michael's cover memo, is some data for player days, and it's comparing last year to this year. we increased participation in player days by 74% from summer of 2018 to 2019. Also, not included in there, but some other data that supports our participation, we have raised our membership 62.5%, and that's 130 paying members, dues-paying members. And finally, we increased the hours of playtime this past summer by 150%. We offered 25 hours of playtime, and that was determined by player demand. And just so you understand what that means, because these courts are temporary that we're playing on, the nets have to be taken down when we leave. So it isn't open for play all the time. The new courts would be open for play all the time. Also in your packet, there was a history, shows the 3 years we've been going through this and trying to find the right spot where we could land and be able to afford it. And so that's just for your reference. And then also in there on page 4, there is a thumbnail sketch of 6 courts that are superimposed on a Google Earth picture of Anderson Park. Now, they're not to scale, but it's just one way of looking at where these courts could fit at Anderson Park. We also did consider backing them up to the east wall of the tennis courts, if that is a better location. We understand and realize that the city will have an engineer do the actual measurements and the best layout and the architectural plan, and we're hoping that we would be able to work with that person when that would happen. So how is this going to be paid for? And I know that's always the bottom line. Every time we've come here, that's the bottom line. Well, we think we've met the bottom line, finally. Funding will be provided by the Hudson Community Pickleball Association and by Paul Anderson. We're looking at approximate costs of everything all included around $100,000 to $110,000. Final quotes, of course, would be determined when Michael and us meet with the appropriate vendors and we get the final design that we want to go with. Our financial sources, our number one source is Paul Anderson. He has agreed to pay 1/2 of the cost for us. Our auxiliary sources are, we already have $5,000 from a private citizen who doesn't even play pickleball, but that was a great start. We will have $1,000 from the United States Pickleball Association. The YMCA is our partner. We will be filing grants. I have the Hudson Hospital Foundation ready to go. We will tap our members, and then we'll also do a fundraising campaign. So we feel very strongly that through our funding sources, we will be successful to raise what we need. As far as maintenance, because I know that's always a question when you're planning budgets, there's very minimum maintenance for pickleball courts. The daily maintenance is maybe blowing leaves, squeegeeing water, and the leaders of the HCPA, as well as members, do that daily. As far as long-term, it would be replacement of nets and court resurfacing. So what we have decided that we would do is that we would amortize the cost of these two things over the period of time, 8 to 10 years, so we would have the money set aside and be able to cover those costs through our member dues as well as tournaments, because we want to look ahead. So at this point, what I would like to do is ask Paul Anderson to come forward and just share with you, because we adopted Paul.
He needed it.
He even came to our potluck. That was great to have him there. But Paul keeps tabs on us when we're playing too. So I want him just to share a few words because he's why we're here.
And I'm going to take a second while Paul's coming up to the podium to explain to the park board members who don't know. Anderson Park was a donation by Paul. Most of that land up there along the bluff at one time was Paul's. Paul's father was a ranked tennis player, and Paul has been a tennis player his whole life and put the courts in there for the city and really has promoted tennis in that respect. And It wouldn't be there had it not been for Paul. We thank you immensely.
Well, I'm just here to facilitate this program, and I'm really impressed with the cheerful pickleball players. I enjoy watching them play. I've played a lot of tennis over the years, as did my father, but I still have not hit a pickleball. But it sure looks fun. So one of these days, I'll get around to it. But at any rate, I'm willing to contribute, donate, half of the funding, somewhere in that $50,000 range, and so we can get this hopefully in the spring, up dead center. And so I feel blessed to be in that neighborhood and work with you folks. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I also asked Don Buckholtz to be here this evening to address you. He is a neighbor kitty corner from where we play right now, and he can give you a sense of the neighborhood feeling about the courts, the pickleball courts that are there now. Don?
Hello, I'm Don Buchholz. My wife and I reside at 1438 Quarry Crest Drive, so we're right across from the park there. I'd like to thank you again, Paul. I've been in conversations with Paul over the past year about this court and about tennis, and I knew his parents, and they were kind of a landmark in this town. And pickleball is kind of the odd cousin of tennis. And we're going to get you on the court. Yeah. And that's a good point there. Pickleball is a lifestyle for those of us over 70. That it's a great health benefit. It's helped me a great deal. I had a heart attack a couple of years ago, lost balance and all that, and this has really helped me and helped others as well. So there's a lot of positive things with this activity other than just a camaraderie. It's a quality of life issue. So, and then introducing the young kids into this as well. It's in the school system. And another thing is, through the years, this wonderful park was up by us, and it got overrun by some real hoodlums. And there were drug dealers, and there were all kinds of things. And over the past 15 years, I was fighting this. I was there as the neighborhood watch. I was confronting. I was doing as much as I could. I could show you photographs. When pickleball came, they left. There's a presence, a mature presence there. And that's a good thing for the city, a good thing for the community, a good thing for the residents. And we like it. I like the sound of that. Bong, bong. And then my wife will say, go play pickleball. But I really would appreciate all that you could do to move this forward so that we could get this done. And I think it'd be a great asset to the city of Hudson and to the community at large. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don.
So in summary, the HCPA asks for your careful consideration of our proposal and hopes that you will approve this request. There's a large group of Hudson pickleball players out there who will be affected positively if you say yes. So I say thank you, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
I have two of them quick. So first of all, thanks for your help in organizing it and explaining it. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
On the packet we got, there was two different pictures. One has 8 courts, and then one has 6 courts. I'm just trying to clarify, are you guys thinking about the 6-court one?
The 6th court.
Seems to be a little better fit, I think, just
Yes.
from looking at the
Yes.
schema here. And then the other question I have is on the, kind of the fencing. If I'm understanding this right, there's a 6-foot perimeter fence around the entire 6, correct? And then there's a 4-foot divider between playing courts. It's labeled C on the schema here.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to figure out what's, can you help me understand, like, what's the 4-foot? Is that just to keep it from going in the other court?
Correct. They would
Yes.
be individual courts so that they're not chasing balls across other people when they're playing.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
but that's just on the one That's just on the two top ones, it's not really on the two bottom ones?
No, it would encompass all of them. There would be a centralized walkway through the entire courts,
Okay.
right? And then each court would have its own gate that you would go into, each individual court.
Okay.
So there'd be 6 separate courts,
And a master fence around the whole.
and a master fence
Yeah.
around the entire
Whole
perimeter.
thing.
Yeah.
And then that gate would be just open, is that a lock gate, or is that just an open gate, or we don't know?
Just an open gate.
Just an open gate like a tennis courts, okay. Yeah, it wasn't on the bottom, so I was trying to figure out why that was put
Yep.
that way, so, okay. Thank you.
Good questions.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Just wait, Pat. I just want to just touch base on one thing. On both of the designs, one of the things that, our office has heard about is, because there are so many pickleball players up there, and it's great to have them up at the park for the many reasons that you stated, parking comes up, right? Parking issues with, not being able to get through side by side. So in the packet, you'll see that there's a proposed design to install diagonal parking off of River Ridge Road.
Yep.
I would look to incorporate the installation of the curb and gutter and the asphalt into one of our projects upcoming next year for scope of services, so on and so forth, to get those cars off the street, expand, actually get more cars in there, so on and so forth, and make it safer for the cars pass on River Ridge Road. So I just wanted to point that out because I know we have heard that in the past, and that we are looking to address that into the future if this does go through. So.
Good.
I'm going to recuse myself because I belong to the club.
Okay.
I would make a motion at this time to approve the proposal for the pickleball courts at Anderson Park.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Motion, has anybody got any additional questions for it?
And then I think also part of the motion I didn't mention, but I think that adding the 5-year sunset clause, that would coincide with the 2021-26 outdoor recreation plan makes sense too. So I guess, can I add that as part of my
Or
motion?
just adding staff recommendations would cover it?
Oh,
right.
under the staff, as recommended by
Yeah.
staff, that's fine too, yeah.
We trust you.
You'll get it built in 5 years, right?
And we can always revisit it if.
Next
Right,
spring.
Yeah.
Right.
Got to be next spring. We're going to work
The
our
other thing I would
tails
say is
off.
that, the other thing I would say is that if, for whatever reason, I think that you guys are doing a great job raising the money and the matching funds is awesome. But if it was to fall short for whatever reason, put 4 courts in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put a smaller amount if that's what you can afford. So kind of maybe let the funding determine that.
Exactly.
So I would be open to, doesn't have to be 6, it could be, I think, whatever they raise money for, so.
And there are ways to redesign that to cut costs also, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, the chair will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Motion carried. Great
That means yes?
addition. Yes, you got it.
Thank you, thank
Thank
you.
Great
you guys
addition
for
to the community up there, guys. That's going to be fabulous.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, this will go to council for final approval on the 18th of November.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
yep.
Evie, are you guys ready to go? Okay. We'll go back up to what had been item A on our agenda, the hot air affair and the use of Lakefront Park for their fat tire race. He looks like a guy who used to work here, doesn't he?
I know it, right?
Doug
I've seen him
Solander.
around.
Looks happier.
Got approached by the Hot Affair to
Would one of you guys grab the door?
put on a hot air affair fat bike race down at the Lakefront Park. We had one 2 years ago, I think, up at the EP Rock School,
Yeah?
and we kind of like to have it downtown. Bring a little bit more people downtown to the businesses. And since I have had cyclocross races down in the park in the past and had a tremendous, feedback from that, and a lot of people wonder why we can't keep doing it and stuff. But that's another story. So we would like to put on a race down at the Lakefront Park. That's February 8th, Saturday, 11 o'clock. First race will be half an hour. The next race will be at hot noon for the hot air fair. Anyway, it'll be an hour race, so it'll be 2 races. And we are raising some money for the fire department, like I have done in the past. The plan is to, I don't know if you have a map of the course, did you?
We do, yeah.
You got, okay. So the start, our plan is to start it out at the Dyke Road, come in and towards the arch, and then take a left into the through the trees and so on, and then kind of back and forth and up into the woods through Orange Street, and then of course hopefully the water will go down a little bit, otherwise we'll be on ice, but then we're probably going to go into another deal with DNR, I assume. That's something we have to look at. But the course is some preliminary. It all depends on the water level, and we should not need anything from the city. I should have all the equipment, all the stakes and tape, for the course, to keep it safe from spectators. And
How do you stake the course, dog?
I have plastic posts that have a metal tip on them, that's about that long.
Yeah.
And if the ground is frozen, then I might have to, drill a hole or something. But if you can pound it in, but that's something we have to deal with, But of course, I know there is sprinklers system
Yeah,
out
irrigation
there.
system.
And
That's why I'm
so-
wondering if the park board approves it, you may want to get in touch with JJ.
Yep,
Maybe just do a preliminary staking, just maybe put some flags out just to make sure, so that
Yep,
there's gonna be snow on the ground, right?
yep.
Drive
We
those
hope
things-
so.
Right, all 99% sure. You just want to make sure that you have some way of marking where that, because we're not
Yep.
gonna be able to go out and shovel off the irrigation system, mark heads and stuff like that for you.
Yep. I know kind of where most of this stuff is because I've been marking for the water utility for years down there, and I'm keeping track with, JJ.
And if you're only even just drilling into the ground, 4
Yeah.
inches, you're not gonna hit.
Yeah, it's about 5-6 inches, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, no, that's a concern of mine. Yes, I don't want to hit anything because that
Right.
is no fun in the spring when
Yeah.
when they turn around and they're spraying all over the place. So, but it's. I think all insurance-wise through the hot air affair. But like I have done in the past, I cleaned up down there before and after, and if there is, grass, we have cleaned up and put some seed down, where needed. Usually what happens is when we have this is the greener grass where we have been riding, but that's because we aerate with the tires, that was on the, earlier, not the frost, of course, but hopefully it can keep snow and that will make it a lot better,
Yeah.
and
So is the path actually like shoveled off or blown off, or do they
No,
ride right on the snow?
well, that depends how much snow we get.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we usually do is just kind of pack it down.
Okay.
Or we might have to shovel. That I hope we don't, because that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Especially for my son and I, but that's kind of what we're doing. But we have some volunteers to help out with it, and I could probably get some work from some of the firefighters too, but we'll just have to hope and pray for good weather and bring some people into town, that, just trying to make something different in the hot air fair, kind of a little bit more different things.
How
Get
many
some.
participants do you think you'll get, Doc?
I'm not sure. I can't remember how many we had up at EP Rock, but I think around 100 plus. And we'll try to maybe bring some of the businesses in so we can do registration in one of the businesses, and then they can use the bathrooms and stuff like that too. We might have to have a couple of satellites at site, just in emergency, or so we don't have people doing the wrong thing. So, but I don't know if there is. Do I need to do anything specific that you guys want me to?
Not that I could think of.
The only
reading
thing would
through
be
everything, I think.
to possibly amend the special event permit to include the race as part of that.
Oh, it is. It's
You put it in there, so then that would be the only thing that I would, I think it's a great thing, something different, something you don't see every, in the wintertime, so.
And you got a history of always cleaning up and fixing everything and making it nicer when you're done than it was when you started.
Yep, thanks. That's kind of the
Motor
motto of us. Trying to make a difference. If you can.
So is this track, so it's partially on some of the paved paths and then off-road also?
Yeah, it's also it starts on the Dike Road.
Yep.
And it goes towards the arch, and then we take a left right between the trees. Try to make a little excitement and a little kind of fun for the spectators too, not just the one that's going to ride it. And then we try to make it so we preserve and take care of.
Right.
You don't want to run over any bushes or trees and stuff like that. But they'll be on the grass. And in between the trees, down in the birch trees along the path there. But you also got to think about the people that want to walk around on the path. We don't want to really do too much, but we're going to have some probably crossings. We will be going down on the west side of the bathhouse and maybe through the beach. It all depends on the water level.
Okay.
And then we're going to go in through the woods. And then go, towards Orange Street, along the path or, in the woods there. We're probably going to have a lot of, debris in there now, especially after the flood. But that'll make it exciting, and we can, we'll clean up some stuff down there, But and then it'll finish right by the by the band shell. That's
Okay.
They might change from that because we don't know the weather too. We want to make it friendly and user friendly for the riders and spectators. We don't want to ruin anything.
Right.
But there are a lot of it on the north side going in towards Orange Street
Okay.
in the woods. And if you had never been down there, it's pretty nice in there.
Yep.
We used to have our cross race out there, and Meg Heaton made a nice article on the Star Observer years ago, and kind of brought a lot of people after that. We cut the trail through there. A lot of people went in there and walking their dogs or family, kids and stuff. And, I used to ride home through the woods there every day from work through the sand and in there, just it's kind of like a little pearl that nobody knows about.
Is there a motion?
I need to I volunteer.
Yep.
I have a couple questions too.
Yep.
So part of it is the insurance thing, maybe you can help me, I'm not sure, but it says here the hot air fair respectfully requests exemption from the ordinance policy requirement of a minimum of bodily injury and property damage of at least 3 million per occurrence aggregate plus the $3 million umbrella. Is requested that the current level of insurance coverage be approved for the 2020 hot air fair. Current insurance certificate and details attached. I didn't see the details attached, so I'm not sure.
I know EV's working on, so Hot Air Fair is going to be supplying a new insurance liability form in January, Evie. She can speak to that.
The hot air affair insurance policy comes due in January. And we've requested from the time the large gathering ordinance was put into place an exception, as does other community events, because you can't buy that policy.
Okay.
So we have the maximum that's available, and it has been part of our application from day one that we have the maximum. What is the maximum? I think it's $1 million per. So we've got the maximum available, and assuming we'll have the same exemption this year that we've always had
Right, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what's been done in the past, is that right, Evie?
since forever.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to clarify. Okay, thank you.
Do the riders sign a release or a?
Yep. The riders will sign a release form that we have to come up with, and together, I assume, to make it, legal, whatever.
Okay.
For liability for us and for hot affair,
Okay.
and the spectators, and of course also the city. What I have done in the past is when I did mine, is I get the insurance release from US Cycling, and that also names the city,
Oh.
and I assume that's the same thing with the hot air affair, So I don't know. The city itself, then there should be also you included, or whatever.
Right. With the city attorney, you could run it by Kathy, our city attorney, too, just to make sure she's
She has
good
a
with it.
city attorney will sign off on everything for the hot air affair agreements
Okay,
as a whole for it, and this will be rolled into the hot air affair as part of the hot air affair taking place on the city park.
okay. And then strange question, but what if we don't have a lot of snow? Does the route then not go over the grass? Do you adjust the route to the sidewalk, or how does that work?
The course will be about the same as it is marked out. Maybe not 100%, but we laid that out. We have already scoped it out,
So Michael, what does that do for the lawn if we don't have a lot of snow?
Well, the ground is frozen, right, in February. So, the chances of them really tearing it up are more slim to none. You're going to have some tear-ups on the corners, but in the past, when they've had it down at Lakefront Park, Dog and the volunteers have gone back. I think the last time they had it was in November, and you had some more bigger rutting issues where in February, not really overly concerned.
Right.
Some of the corners will maybe have to come back. We'll just have to play it by ear, but they've been very good on repairing,
Okay.
bringing in fresh dirt, seeding it, so on and so forth, that I feel comfortable with them using the park.
The part of restoration is not any worse than having the tents down there for the art fair or whatever, the 4th of July celebration. It looks bad the day after or whatever, but you got to look at the future. What is it going to do? It's actually going to help the grass. But that's something that not everybody understand, but the riding on that grass is actually aerating, and you will have green and glass where the track is. In my experience.
Yeah.
But we will take care of issues, and please come to me about it, and I'll take care of it.
Okay.
I don't want to, come a year later and say, hey, this and that. I don't like to take care of stuff right away.
Sounds good.
Then that means, of course, after the frost is out.
So in terms of a motion, are we looking for this to be approved under the current permit, or the permit that would be issued for the whole hot air affair, or is this a separate deal?
I think you're just looking for approval of use of Lakefront Park
Using our park.
as
Okay.
part of the hot air event, special event permit.
So I would move to do that.
Second. Any further questions or things to be clarified?
May I
Go ahead, Ed.
May I just explain? Hot Air Fair has had a 5K foot race for 10 years, and this is pretty much replacing the foot race that was held up on the hill, up in the vicinity of EP Rock and Mount Zion Church. The race had been up there. The person who did that race for 10 years retired. I think we're going to have a race. It's going to be reincarnate with a few different things and some children's activities, and moving it out to Camp St. Croix. And so we were looking for two reasons. Doug does a wonderful job with projects, looking for something downtown. Coincidentally, and thank you very much for your recommendation, the race will start where the uplift sculpture will be located on the Dyke Road. So it's kind of a showcase event for us this year as something new in downtown and bringing people down to see the sculpture too.
Great.
Awesome.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think it'll be fun. It should be great
guys.
fun to watch.
Thank you. I hope you come down, and if you have a fat bike, bring it. We'll take you around, give you a helmet or something, but yeah, come and check it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug. I think it's a great program. Next item we have is a discussion of our outdoor rec plan.
So this is our outdoor rec plan. Many of you have seen it before. It goes from 2015 to 2020, seeing that next year is 2020, and that we are doing the impact fee study with Trilogy Consulting. It's a good way to kind of coordinate the two projects together, updating this and doing the impact fee study. So I guess what I'm looking for, maybe from you, Pat and Pam, those of you that have sat on here longer, is how have you approached developing this in the past? Has staff put it together, brought recommendations, or as park board, have you had like a workshop where you've identified capital projects, and then over the next 5-10 years, what would you look for? Because I'm looking to bring something back in December for planning purposes, capital outlay, so on and so forth. How would you like me to do that?
Well, none of them have been on the board except for Pat.
Pat,
You were on when we did it before.
You were here for the we were here for the first one.
you remember how it was done?
Yeah, it was a combination of all of that.
Okay.
In that we had looked at each of the parks
Okay.
individually
Okay.
and said, what do we need, what's lacking, what should be going in here so it can be considered in the plan. Using pickleball as an example, 5 years ago, people didn't know pickleball existed. Looking at each of the parks in that way, and I think it's going to be really important for us this year, is we rolled an old number of $250,000 over several years in our plan for the building to go in up at Grandview. And now that has kind of come back to bite us because we had only had that number.
Right.
And so I think we need to also look at, any projects that we have coming that we have a number put to already. I think we should revisit that and reassess it as to if we need to raise it and those kinds of things.
Okay, so I think that's what I'll do for December's meeting. What I'll do is maybe I'll take 4 parks, we'll dissect them, look at them, and then the other thing that I want to do up front is look at the current capital improvement plan that's in here. Let's look at it, let's maybe remove some items that are no longer needed. Let's update some numbers. There's some other items like splash pads, so on and so forth, that we've been talking about. So maybe we'll go about it that way. Like I said, over the next 3 months, we'll just 4, or 5, 5, 5, so on and so forth. So if that sounds all right with the board, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, and if you
Okay.
can give us some advance warning on what the 4 would be, we could each
Okay.
get out to the park, look at it, and give it some thought.
Yep,
And come in prepared for
perfect.
that.
Okay,
And we've talked about public input or finding out information from the residents of the community and incorporating that into what we're doing. Is that part of what's happening with the
comp plan.
comp plan?
Yes.
And so are we having a presence there and get,
Yep, so parks, green spaces, and open spaces, Tiffany, will be a part of the comp plan, and some of the survey responses I would get as part of that, we can incorporate it into the outdoor rec plan. So it's, like I said, you got 3 separate documents kind of coming together all within the same year, which is very unique and it's good, because it just helps with that planning, right? So, okay, so that's what I'll do. No motion needed on that, I just want a kind of general direction for the future. So, thank you.
You got anything on the boat launch at
Yep.
this time?
Yeah, so it's unfinished business. Yep. So we did print out a new issue sheet. This didn't get in the packet. I had updated, but so it's basically a general previous discussion at Park Board and then subsequently at City Council, staff went out for RFPs for engineering firms to do preliminary design, cost estimate, and then if we are awarded the grant, final design, construction documents, bid documents, so on and so forth. And we received 6 RFPs. They were due on the 31st on Halloween. We received 6 of them back. Cedar Corporation, Bolton and Mank, Foth, Strand, SEH, and MSA. And after reviewing the documents, I looked them over. Mr. Johnson, the Community Development Director, looked them over, as well as our new city engineer. The lowest proposal was from MSA, preliminary expense to do all the preliminary design, cost estimate, which we are able then to apply for the permit from the DNR, which then we are able to apply for the recreational boating facilities grant. They were the lowest at $14,127. And then they were also the lowest total cost for the remaining documents at $37,540, which would be complete. So total cost from MSA was $37,540 to help with the development of the plans. Like I said, I did speak with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Chamberlain, and we're all in consensus of recommending approval of MSA to help develop, design the boat launch improvements for Lakefront Park. And with that, so this is, I know some of the discussion that we had in the past was the layout. If we're using the current footprint, if we're going to look at possibly expanding it north, there's some question on that. So the preliminary design deliverables from MSA, up to 2 initial concept layouts, 1 refined concept layout after the decision is made based on those preliminaries, condition assessment memorandum, photographic record of existing site conditions, and then preliminary cost estimates as well. So we're getting everything that we're asking for them for that preliminary phase. So looking for a motion to approve MSA to perform our engineering services for the lakefront boat ramp reconstruction.
So Mike, does this, sorry, I was just clarifying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So does the proposal from MSA, is that strictly the boat launch, or is that the boat launch and the additional parking?
It would be both.
Both.
Yep.
It's both.
They would give dual conceptual designs.
So talk more about the conceptual designs, because I was the one that was thinking if we could push that parking lot
Yep.
toward, I think, what you call Picnic Point,
Yep.
rather than use the green space and lakefront.
No, there's no room to go that way.
Well, where the current
Playground is?
playground is, yeah. And we would relocate the playground structures to the green space. That's what I was thinking at the last meeting.
I don't think that's going to fly. No offense.
Why
I
is it
think
not?
the
working?
outrage from the community would be to take Picnic Point and turn that into a parking lot would offend all kinds of people. It really does get used, rather than the green space that goes from the existing parking lot over towards the volleyball court isn't offending anybody by taking that, and it's adjacent to where we already are. And Planning Commission has been talking about the need for, and I'm sure it came up to you with Mike, that to have our exit be over by Commercial Street so that traffic comes in and flows out that way because of the bottleneck that can take place right there at Buckeye and First. So I think with the way it ties into that planning, I don't think we could give up Picnic Point for parking.
I think we should talk more about it. I think there's going to be a lot of kickback from the public on, once you lose green space in Lakefront Park, which is kind of the jewel of the city, you don't get that back.
Yeah,
So
Picnic Point is part of that green space.
it is, but I think it's further hidden off of the park. And I enjoy it. I bring my kids there all the time to play, especially when they're little. And I don't have anything against it. I'm just saying, as a city, we need to really think about that green space on Lakefront more seriously, I think, before I'd want to cough that up. Because I do think that's a great resource for the city. And that's a very visible space, as opposed to that playground area. It's not very visible space, and you essentially would be wedging that in between what's the boat, the marina there, And I just feel like that, if you're going to add additional parking, that just seems like a better long-range plan for me.
Okay.
But I think there needs to be more discussion. I'm
Opposition to that.
I think what we do is part of their proposed design services, they attend a kickoff meeting with the city of Hudson to define project goals, scope, et cetera. So I think at that time, you know, I can extend an invitation to the park board to be included in that meeting. Let's go down to the site and let's get their recommendations on what makes sense. I get what you're saying, Pat, or Paul, as far as that parking place. I just don't know if you're going to create the necessary expansion. I don't know how many spots they'd be able to
Right.
fit in that space.
Right.
If they can only fit 5 or 6 in there, then it probably doesn't make sense to do it where you can fit another, 20 to 25 north of the current parking spaces. But let's talk to them about it. Let's just get them on board, get it through here, get it through council, and then we can start going through the nitty-gritty details and looking at which 2 designs we want to have them do for us.
That makes sense to me. And I mean, full council would have to approve this.
Yeah.
And also probably planning commission possibly.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that traffic flow is important, what you're talking about.
Yep.
And if you did the parking lot on the current, or what I'm suggesting, you'd have to maybe reconfigure how you think about that. So I get it, it's not the last straw, but, and if you want to approve it, I'm good with that moving forward, but just also want to stress, I think we should really think that parking space out.
Has this company done anything around here that we can reference, or?
Yeah, so MSA, they actually did some parking.
We did the whole First Street.
They did the whole First Street parking reconstruction. They just did a boat ramp reconstruction in Richmond that they're currently working on. They did a big boat landing up in Rhinelander, which they got $570,000 through the Recreational Boating Facilities Grant. Illinois, town of Washington, Wisconsin. So, I mean, they do have extensive experience with boat launch
Lowest
reconstruction.
bid and experience.
Yeah. So,
good.
and I mean, they're all good companies. They've all done this type of work. That's why they all submitted. It's just a matter of what a good price point, right? And you're getting
Yep.
the same materials to apply for the grant. So,
Okay. So we have a motion,
No, not yet.
and it was seconded, Pam made it and was
Pam.
seconded, so all those in
Who
favor
seconded
signify
it?
by saying aye.
who seconded
Paul
it?
did, I thought.
I didn't second, I was trying to
Oh, I'm
clarify.
sorry.
The other thing I'd like to do, I don't know if we have, I would love to see the proposals from,
Absolutely.
is there a way that we can see them before voting on? I'm not sure what I would love to just see the different.
Yeah, I didn't want to include them all in the packet
Sure.
just because of, what do you want to say? Out of,
Expediency and we don't need it.
well, I just don't want to let all the other firms know what
It's
the
a
numbers
privacy-
are.
a privacy
type
thing.
of thing. You don't want to be respectful of that. So that's why I didn't include them.
Got it.
And, but yeah, more than willing to have you, I mean, we can scan them if you want to see them. But certainly for council, I will have something.
Okay.
available, so.
Right, and I realize this isn't the final thing, so I would second the motion then, based on
Okay.
that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, Thank you.
I want to hurry through the next, we've got planning coming in here at 6.
We just got 2 quick items here. Hudson Chamber Commerce lighting at Lakefront Park was approved by the city council, so Chamber's been working. I know they've been meeting the past couple weeks to get a final design. They've already started to purchase some materials, so that'll be going up here shortly. And then lastly, Evie had reference to uplift structure that was approved by council, so that'll be going up here in the next couple weeks as part of the Hot Air Fair Association event coming on. So that'll be on. They actually decided instead of putting it in the park, they're putting it kind of underneath the arch on the Toll Bridge Road, half on the Toll Bridge Road, half on the grass off to the side, so people will be able to walk to it more easily if it does snow, so on and so forth. So that'll be going up here in the next couple weeks as well. So that's it.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're done.
Thank you.